At the personal development seminars I've been teaching for years, I'm constantly pointing out how humans do crazy/dumb things. And nothing to me is goofier that every time an average person's around someone wealthy, they always expect the wealthy person to pick up the check. Why is that? See, average people, like I certainly used to be as far as earnings go, can become above average if you get the information a wealthy person has. So you should go out of your way to take a wealthy person lunch and pay for it because of all the information you're going to get. Well, a couple years ago, we got one of the most unique opportunities in the world, and my wife and I were able to take a local, famous billionaire to lunch. And tonight, we're going to tell you that story and a few of the things that we learned that night on The Power of One. You know, it's funny, in the media, obviously, people that are in the public eye are always portrayed a certain way by the media, so we as average people sort of develop an opinion about people before we get a chance to meet them. Well, that was certainly the case with this lunch I'm referring to. My wife and I, as you may remember from previous shows, are board members in Texas for Big Brother, Big Sister. So every year there's an annual black tie and boots ball. There's black tie and boots because we're in Texas. It's kind of cool. I know other parts of the country may not understand that. But anyway, every year we go and they always have auction items and they allow us to bid on, really nice trips or, celebrity chefs coming to your house. And, they raise large amounts of money throughout the evening with people like us donating for, a wonderful cause and getting something nice out of it for ourselves. And we go every year and we always bid on something and try to contribute. But one year we were sitting there and instead of a trip, they were offering lunch with the owner of the Dallas Mavericks and multi-billionaire Mark Cuban. Now, once again, I know a lot of people are like, oh, Mark Cuban, he's always screaming on TV and he's, he gets fined all the time and sometimes he says kind of a, whatever, crass things or whatever the case might be. But, I was like, I don't care. I mean, if he's a little cocky or arrogant, what the heck? He's a multi-billionaire and I would love to just get to know this guy and spend a little bit of time with him. And besides, it's for a great cause. So we jumped at it. I got to be honest with you. There was no one else in the room that night who had an opportunity to come close to winning that because my wife and I were going to pay whatever it took. As I shared with you in the beginning of the show, I mean, imagine the money that business people like me, like you, spend with consultants. And not too many consultants are billionaires. So I would have done anything to spend some time with this gentleman just to kind of pick his brain and get to know him a little bit. And we went into the lunch assuming it was going to be, nothing remarkable. It was going to be an awkward deal. We didn't know him. He didn't know us. But I have to tell you, when he showed up, he just came there as friendly as could be, as open as could possibly be. He didn't come with an entourage. He came all by himself. He just hung out. And he did say in the beginning that he usually doesn't eat lunch. He eats lunch at his office, and he had to go probably in about an hour, which I would have done too. Heck, you're going to lunch with people you never met before. So we didn't, once again, think it was going to last a long time. But, the reality was we just started chatting, and it was really, really fun. I mean, we obviously asked him basketball questions. We asked him about his first business. If you don't know about Mark Cuban, he started off, I think his first business venture at 12 years old, he won some really incredible basketball sneakers and his mom and dad wouldn't give him the money, so he started selling, I believe, garbage bags in his neighborhood. And then he went on and had a bunch of entrepreneurial endeavors through his younger years, and I believe he hooked up with a college buddy, and he had a passion for basketball, obviously, and he also had a passion for the emerging internet. So he put together his own company called AudioNet, and they were streaming the audio on the internet of basketball games, just the once again, a breakthrough concept, a visionary, someone coming up with something that didn't even exist. And then eventually that became broadcast.com, and that got bought out by Yahoo for several $billion worth of Yahoo stock. So overnight, Here's a guy who really didn't come from wealth, who really was just, a dreamer and a visionary, and all of a sudden he's a multi-billionaire. And then I think a lot of you know his history from there. He bought the Mavericks, he's become very famous for that, and now he owns Landmark Theaters. He's the chairman of the board for HDNet and HDTV, so he's obviously got his hands in a lot of pies. One of the things we learned at lunch is he's also now a movie producer, and he produced the movie Akela and the Bee, which I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but it's phenomenal. So we just learned so much because with all the different businesses he had going on, he was great at some of them and a master at some of them, but he was really in a learning curve with some of the other stuff. And it was really neat to sit there and realize that even billionaires are people, and they go through the same frustrations and disappointments that really successful people have. As a matter of fact, they're willing to lay it on the line usually more so, and they're willing to fail more times, and they're willing to, get frustrated more than average people, because I promise you, people like Mark Cuban are not going to quit until they win. So we just sat there and we talked about our kids and raising kids and families, and obviously we talked a lot about basketball. One of the things that I took away from that meeting is he said when he first bought the Mavericks, he knew you can't put go from a perennial loser and put, because back then the Mavs had like close to the worst record in the history of the NBA, and he knew he couldn't put a championship team on a court overnight. But what he said is, I knew I could make the experience for the fans phenomenal right from the get-go. We could make it fun to come to the arena. And if you really don't know what happened to the Mavericks since he came here, I've got to tell you, it's been phenomenal. I mean, we have one of the top franchises now. The arena is always packed. We haven't won a championship yet, unfortunately, but we do put a championship caliber team on the court again and again and again. And his whole philosophy is he wants the players to want to come here. So they are taken care of better than any other team almost in the entire NBA, or at least as well, from the lockers to all the little extra things that they have. He just really spoils the players, but he expects a great deal out of them. And he talked about how we got individual, coaches and mentors for a lot of the players. We just learned so much about him. And what I took away from it ultimately is he had absolute passion for what he was doing, and he really didn't care what people thought of him. He was going to pursue his passion and not worry about it. And let me ask you a question. Is that what you're doing? Because I can tell you, when I sat there at that lunch, I realized that even though I had a lot of passion for certain things, I was sort of hedging my bets, and I really wasn't letting anyone know exactly what I felt. I wasn't being 100% authentic because I was worried about what other people say. But once again, if you learn something from someone who's making a lot more money than you, or they're a lot better at what they're doing, you need to go to school. So that day changed my life in a regard, as I was going to let everything hang out and go out and just be who I am. And will that polarize some people? Absolutely. But the bottom line is you can't worry about that. You have to live your life and do what you want to do and just be a free spirit. I mean, we talked about when he bought his massive home that he has now. When he first moved in, before he was married and had kids, he took the entryway and he used to play wiffle ball. He turned the entryway in this bazillion-dollar house into a wiffle ball field. I mean, to me, I love that kind of stuff. And I'm sure there's critics that would put him down and all kinds of garbage, but the reality is, I'm telling you firsthand, Mark Cuban's a real nice guy. He's a real bright guy. He's a real talented guy. But the reason why I thought it'd be great to have him on The Power of One, other than the fact that he was a visionary and he was a maverick, pardon the pun, and he went out there and kind of set the tone and blazed the path and created paradigm shifts that we're still, obviously building on the internet in this day and age. What I love is his fallen patriot fund, because he is really passionate about doing something for the families of Americans who have lost people in the war, and I really admire and respect that a great deal. And once again, there's so many people who have so much money, they have celebrity, and they're really just not doing enough, in my mind, with everything they have, with all the audience they have, with all the power they have, with all the wealth they have. But I was really impressed that Mark Cuban is a real nice guy, but he's giving back, and he's giving back in an area to me that just can't be any more important. I mean, my wife and I have a passion for children, but we also have so much respect for the people in the military and their families and what they go through, and it's hard for us to really even fathom the hell that these guys and gals go through. But to know that there are people like Mark Cuban that are back home and making sure that when our soldiers do come back, or in this case, don't come back, that their families are definitely being taken care of. So Mark Cuban is a billionaire. Mark Cuban is a businessman. Mark Cuban just a nice guy from my thoughts and my wife's thoughts. And we just wanted to share a little bit about that tonight on the show, because once again, this is all about our interactions and people who've inspired us. And as far as people who've inspired us to our levels of success, he's way up there, guys. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but after we met Mark Cuban, our income went up by more than 100%. So he is certainly one of the people we look up to, and we wanted to share his story tonight on The Power of One. We'll see you next week.